A warm welcome to everyone tuning in today. We're here to explore an intriguing social phenomenon that's been on the rise, the increasing rates of divorce. It's a topic that touches the lives of many, shaping our societies and interpersonal relationships. By understanding this trend, we can gain insights into the changing dynamics of relationships and their impact on society at large. So, let's embark on this enlightening journey together. But before we dive in, do remember to subscribe to our channel and share this video with your friends. Your support helps us to bring more such interesting content to you. To get started, let's first understand what we mean by divorce rates. Now, when we talk about divorce rates, we're not simply counting the number of divorces that occur. Instead, we're looking at various metrics that allow us to understand the prevalence of divorce within a population. Let's take the United Nations data as an example. They measure divorce rates in a few different ways. One is the crude divorce rate, which is the number of divorces per 1,000 people per year. But this doesn't account for those who can't marry, like young children. So it's a bit like trying to understand the demand for ice cream by counting how many people eat it without considering those who can't or won't. To address this, we have the refined divorce rate. This is the number of divorces per 1,000 married women. It's a bit more accurate because it only takes into account people who are actually able to get divorced. Then we have the divorce to marriage ratio. This compares the number of divorces to the number of marriages in a given year. But this ratio has its own limitations. It's comparing two different populations, those who can marry and those who can divorce. And it's only looking at the current year, while the divorce rate considers outcomes from previous years. And of course, there are many factors that can influence these rates, like economic conditions. So as you can see, understanding divorce rates isn't as simple as it might seem. So, armed with this understanding, we can now delve into how these rates have changed over time. Let's step back in time and look at the divorce rates in the past. The journey of divorce rates is much like a roller coaster ride, with its fair share of ups and downs. And as with any good story, the past holds the key to understanding the present. In the early 20th century, divorce was a relatively rare occurrence. This was not necessarily because marriages were happier, but largely due to societal norms and legal restrictions that made divorce a taboo or almost impossible. However, as societal norms evolved and laws changed, the divorce rates began to rise. The period following the Second World War, known as the baby boom era, saw a significant spike in divorce rates. This was partly due to an increase in marriages of convenience during the war, which unsurprisingly resulted in a higher number of divorces once the war was over. Then came the 60s and 70s, a time of social revolution and change. With the introduction of no-fault divorce laws and the rise of the feminist movement, divorce rates reached an all-time high. The perception of marriage began to shift, and divorce became more socially acceptable. But it wasn't just societal norms and laws that played a role. Economic conditions also had a significant impact. For instance, during times of economic prosperity, divorce rates often increased. This was likely because individuals felt more financially secure, and thus more capable of handling the economic implications of a divorce. However, it's important to remember that measuring divorce rates is not as straightforward as it may seem. Different measures, such as the crude divorce rate, the refined divorce rate, and the divorce to marriage ratio, each provide a unique perspective on divorce trends, and each has its own limitations. As we can see, societal norms and conditions greatly influenced divorce rates in the past. But how does this compare to today? Fast forward to the present day, and the picture of divorce rates looks quite different. We see an upward trend compared to the past, reflecting the significant societal shifts that have occurred. Firstly, let's talk about changes in laws. Over the years, laws around the world have evolved to make divorce more accessible. It's no longer a lengthy, arduous process exclusive to a privileged few. In many places, no-fault divorce laws have been implemented, meaning that a couple can split without having to prove any wrongdoing. This has undeniably played a part in increasing divorce rates. Next, societal acceptance of divorce has greatly increased. This is particularly relevant in societies where divorce was once considered taboo. As our world becomes more accepting and less judgmental, people feel more comfortable in making the decision to end a marriage that isn't working. They no longer have to worry about the social stigma that was once attached to divorce. Finally, let's discuss economic conditions. As women have gained more financial independence and as economic stability has become more uncertain, the decision to divorce has become more complex. It's no longer just about emotional compatibility, but also about financial compatibility. Financial stress can strain a marriage, and sometimes divorce seems like the only way out. So, where does this leave us in terms of numbers? The United Nations reported in 2009 that the countries with the highest annual divorce rates had numbers as high as 4 divorces per 1,000 population per year. While this might seem small at first glance, remember that this rate does not account for individuals who cannot marry, such as young children. Clearly, the divorce rates have seen a significant increase. But what does this mean for us and our society? Scene script. An increase in divorce rates is not just a statistic, it has real-world implications. Let's delve into what these implications are, starting with the individual level. When a marriage ends, it often triggers a cascade of emotional upheaval. The stress of divorce can lead to a myriad of mental health issues, including anxiety, depression, and a decrease in life satisfaction. It's a life-altering event that demands a significant adjustment period, and for some the psychological impact can be long-lasting. But the effects of divorce are not limited to the emotional sphere. There's also an economic dimension to consider. The process of divorce itself can be costly, and the financial aftermath can be even more devastating. In many cases, individuals find themselves shouldering the burden of expenses that were previously shared, such as mortgage payments or childcare costs. This can lead to financial instability and, in some instances, poverty. Moving on from the individual, let's consider the societal implications. An increase in divorce rates can reshape the structure of families. Children in particular can be greatly affected. They may have to navigate the complexities of split households, experience changes in their standard of living, or grapple with the emotional turmoil of seeing their parents separate. On a broader scale, the rise in divorce rates can influence societal norms and perceptions. As divorce becomes more commonplace, attitudes towards marriage and family life can shift. This can lead to changes in how society views the institution of marriage and the traditional family structure. Finally, let's not forget about the economic impact on society. The financial strain of divorce doesn't just affect the individuals involved. There's a ripple effect that can touch various sectors of the economy. For instance, increased demand for housing due to split households can influence the real estate market. As we can see, the rise in divorce rates is a complex issue with far-reaching implications. It's a phenomenon that extends beyond the couples involved, affecting individuals, families, and society as a whole. This brings us to the end of our discussion on the increase in divorce rates over time. We took a walk down memory lane, exploring the evolution of divorce rates from the past to the present, and examined the factors that contributed to these shifts. We also delved into the implications of higher divorce rates, not just for individuals, but for society as a whole. We've seen how the concept of marriage has evolved and how societal changes have influenced the dynamics of relationships. Economic conditions, changes in gender roles, and shifts in societal norms have all played their part in affecting divorce rates. It's important to note that these rates are not just numbers, they reflect the personal stories and life experiences of countless individuals around the world. The increase in divorce rates also has broad ramifications for society. It impacts family structures, children's upbringing, and even economic stability. It's a topic that warrants further reflection and understanding, as its effects ripple out far beyond the confines of personal relationships. Remember, knowledge is power. Understanding the trends and factors behind divorce can help us navigate our own relationships more effectively and empathize with the experiences of others. It can also guide policymakers to create more supportive systems for those going through this life-altering process. As we wrap up this discussion, we encourage you to reflect on this topic. Consider its relevance to your life and the lives of those around you. Is there something you can do to support someone going through a divorce? Can you use this knowledge to better navigate your own relationships? These are questions worth pondering. Thank you for tuning in today. We hope you found this discussion enlightening. This is a vast and complex topic and we've only scratched the surface. But every journey of understanding begins with a single step, and we're glad you took that step with us today. Remember to subscribe and share. Stay curious, stay informed. Your journey of learning doesn't end here, it's just beginning. Until next time, take care and keep exploring.